Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
And I realized the better headspace I was in, the better I treated my employees, the better they could treat our clients. And through LegalEase, we can do that to the lawyers at their firms, to, the exponential growth from that. So that when you have this person who's genuinely struggling through the worst part of their life, I would hate to have them hire an attorney who needs to resolve their case in 14 days before they can't make the next payroll and how they handle that case, as opposed to the lawyer who wants to have a 20 or 30-year relationship with this client, who treats them a certain way, who's nice to them, who actually listens to them, who cares about them, and who does a great job on the case. I mean, that's the table stakes of so much of this, but the more that we are all in better places mentally and the more that we all are doing what we love, the better we are for each other in what we do.
To be in power, you don't need guns or money or even numbers. You just need the will to do what the nice guys on business won't. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by Turnkey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, nice guy community. If you go to law school, they teach you the law, but what happens when you get that JD and you open your own practice? The only way for you to get the business flowing and to turn on, the business is to get the marketing juice going, getting your firm's phone to ring. And then once you do bring a client in, getting them to refer you to their network. Now, what are we talking about today? It doesn't just apply to law firms. Whether you're a plumber or a painter or a mechanic or a mechanical engineer, doing what you do is only part of your path to profit. Jordan Ostroff, he's here to talk about all things marketing. Now, we're going to maybe specifically talk a little bit more about legal because that's the side that he deals with. But a lot of the stuff that we're going to chat about today has to deal with any business that you are running. You got to get the phone to ring. Jordan, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Happy to have you here. It is so interesting. We go to school to learn how to do the best things that we can, the things that are our gifts. We kind of like fine tune and craft them, or maybe we get some experience out on the street, not necessarily getting it at school. But nobody ever teaches us about how to get the phone to ring, the marketing side or the sales side of things. So maybe share a little bit of your backstory about why this was a critical component for you. It looks like you spent a couple $100,000 doing things the wrong way before you finally got your head on straight. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's actually funny you mentioned, I don't even know that my law school taught me how to practice law because you learn the black letter law, but then you have to learn Florida law to practice. But anyway, you definitely don't get how to market, how to run a business, any of those things. And so I had been in Orlando for undergrad, for grad school, for law school, for being a prosecutor, opening my firm here. So I did a pretty good job with referrals, not having any idea that was actually a thing that I was doing. And then I hired a bunch of marketing companies that either didn't know what they were doing or didn't ask me if I knew what I was doing, because I definitely didn't, and blew like $200,000 that I didn't have on bad marketing opportunities until I finally went back to basics, learned, like marketing 101, and then started implementing that stuff.
What's interesting about what you're saying is the challenge is that most people don't know what they don't know. So they don't even think about, they get all excited about, fine tuning and honing in on their trade, but they don't think about the marketing. And really, who likes marketing and really who likes selling? Nobody likes those things. They're just necessary evils that you have to get through. Now, I may be a little weird because I do kind of like the sales process and I do like kind of like the hunt a little bit, and I enjoy the prospecting side, and I like the follow-up because nobody does that stuff. So maybe talk to those in our audience about the critical components outside of just, honing in on the craft that is, your profession.
Sure. I mean, look, the easiest way is if you rolled into some, like Old West town in the 1800s and you had two lawyers in town. The first one's Atticus Finch, the great attorney. The second one's like, okay, but he knows everybody or she knows everybody. Which one do you think is all the business? How long before Atticus Finch is working for the person who's getting all the leads? Like, it's that simple. And then, from the standpoint of like starting out with referrals or content creation or having a live show where we can talk to people. I mean, look, they're like 80 years into this study that started with kids in Harvard about happiness. And all of it always comes back to building those connections and building those relationships with other humans.
Mm.
And so like that's what marketing is. It's just doing that at scale in a bunch of different ways.
All right, so let's chat about that for a second because I think that's so important. Whether somebody's out there that owns a law firm or they own a practice where they're fixing cars, the relationship is really everything. So, are there certain tools or are there certain processes or practices that you can share with our community that would be a good starting point if somebody was just okay? I know how to do what I do. I just don't know how to get my phone to ring.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing is genuinely care about other human beings. So, like most lawyers start a law firm with no money. So you're going to have to go after referrals because you can't spend the money on Google. You can't run ads over here. You can't send direct mail. And so then it becomes like, who do I already know and like and trust who might come across my clients, or who else are my clients going to need help from when they have my legal need? So, you've got your estate planning attorneys and your financial advisors working to help people over there. You've got your criminal defense attorneys working with, people at drug treatment facilities or anger management classes. They can work together. You've got your personal injury attorneys working with doctors and chiropractors and neurologists and whatnot to help people get help. And the more that you genuinely like those people and the more that you build a genuine relationship, the easier it's going to be to pass business in a way that is a win for the client and you making or giving the referral, and whoever makes the referral to you or gets the referral from you. Like that's where a lot of this starts, I think.
So Jordan, you went to school for law, but you ended up not only practicing law, but discovering this need, this white space in your industry that needed to be filled. How do you know which way to gravitate towards? Because I went into podcasting originally to promote a book and my consulting business, which was in customer service, and I became a podcast producer because enough people in my audience said, "Hey, Doug, we love the idea of you talking about customer service, but we also really love this idea of you teaching me how to do some podcast stuff." How did you know, to follow the opportunity? Was it just the path to profit, or did you really enjoy this other side even more?
That's a great question. I mean, look, to some extent, it's the same thing as your experience, just the lawyer realizing I was a marketer anyway, committing more to marketing, and then realizing I could help other lawyers bridge that gap for their practices as well. Ultimately, as it got later on in that path, I was able to figure out what allows me the flexibility that I like. And so, I own the law firm with my wife. We did a 13-month cross-country road trip with our kid. We're on a 10-week summer vacation trip now. So we had to figure out what practice area would allow her the same flexibility, would allow us the flexibility of the firm, would allow me the flexibility from, the marketing side. And then it becomes a situation where I can meet with a bunch of our clients or referral sources across the country as we travel and get to see them in person and, have fun and create better content and film cool videos in cool places and post that stuff to generate more leads. It's fascinating to really go back to doing what I genuinely love, which has become living a great life and building relationships with people and just using, technology and marketing to do those things at scale.
The same stuff that was keeping you up, if there was anything that was keeping you up as an attorney, probably keeps you up, or if so, as a business owner. What are those things for you?
That's a great question. I sleep a lot better now than I did several years ago. I mean, look, here's the thing. No one wants to hire a lawyer. And I understand nobody wants to hire really anybody. You have a problem you want to solve.
Right.
From the standpoint of law, though, most of the time it's the worst moment in somebody's life. They were arrested and they could go to prison. They were in a car accident and they can't walk. They're getting a divorce. It's mostly the worst things possible. And I realized the better headspace I was in, the better I treated my employees, the better they could treat our clients. And through LegalEase, we can do that to the lawyers at their firms, to, the exponential growth from that. So that when you have this person who's genuinely struggling through the worst part of their life, I would hate to have them hire an attorney who needs to resolve their case in 14 days before they can't make the next payroll and how they handle that case, as opposed to the lawyer who wants to have a 20 or 30-year relationship with this client, who treats them a certain way, who's nice to them, who actually listens to them, who cares about them, and who does a great job on the case. I mean, that's the table stakes of so much of this. But the more that we are all in better places mentally, and the more that we all are doing what we love, the better we are for each other in what we do.
So there are metrics in every business. I'm sure there's metrics in the field of law that you have to, when you go in and you look at a firm and you say, okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish. What are those things that you try to look at? I'm assuming you're not looking at how they're practicing law. You're probably looking at, what they're doing for on their marketing books, but I don't know. So why don't you share a little bit about what it looks like when you're doing this initial analysis for a firm?
Like, what are we analyzing at our firms for them to be clients, or what are we analyzing at the firms for their clients?
Oh, that's really interesting. I was looking at it more from a business perspective for your business. What do you analyze within that firm to determine whether, number one, what are you measuring to see if they, other than just them coming to you and saying, hey, the phone's not ringing, can you help me make the phone ring? When you do eventually go in and you start doing an analysis of what's going on in that practice, what are you looking for?
Gotcha. Okay. So, great question. So for everybody, we're doing a marketing plan and an audit at the very beginning. So we want to talk to them about what are their goals for their firm, how many cases, what types of cases. And if the answer is just, I want more cases, that's a red flag for me. Like, I want you to know, hey, we have room for 30% more cases. We want to hire 5 more people. We need 40% more of a caseload, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. I want a more specific answer. If they can't give us that answer, then if there's no other red flags, we'll make it work. But normally we're referring them to some sort of coach or, business coach to get that stuff lined up. So then after this plan, for the most part, we're going to actually build out their CRM, or at least make drastic changes to it, so they have real-time tracking of everything that you're talking about. Those more common metrics of how many leads come in, what's your close rate on them, how many show up for a consultation, what's your average case value, and whatnot along those lines, to really dive into sort of what their baseline is. Then the third step, now we're going to do more marketing for them to put more leads into the top of this funnel to track it through and see, okay, we doubled your lead flow and we increased your close rate by 10% by having these follow-up emails. And we doubled the amount of reviews you get from clients, and we increased your client referrals by 20% by having the systems on the client portal and whatnot. And it's fascinating to see how, you can look at this whole thing holistically and pull a bunch of levers to have drastic changes to a firm at the end of it.
It's interesting. I'm a podcasting hammer, so everything looks like a podcasting nail to me. As you were talking, and I was thinking about these law firms, and legal being one of the areas that we do highly specialize in within the podcast environment. Like, why wouldn't every lawyer, and maybe I'm not, I need you to sell me the idea back because it's really interesting. Why wouldn't every lawyer want to have a podcast? Because it's a way to have brand awareness. It's a great way for lead gen. It's a great way to collect a referral base by putting the right person in the seat to refer business to you. Is there anything that would hold somebody back from a legal perspective on wanting to start a podcast?
So let me start with yes, but like, I told you before this, I was just doing a presentation to a bunch of newer lawyers in Denver. Mm-hmm. Literally, that's the finish of my presentation. I have them come up with their personal brand, and then I talk about, like, have a live show, and I walk them through, like, the quickest way to do this with no help, and then obviously where you can have a ton of help come in, because I agree with you. The issues that come up, there's client confidentiality issues, so you have to be really careful about the stories. If you're at another firm, you need to make sure that you're following whatever guidelines they have. Absolutely. But dude, for that law firm owner who's, who only has an hour or two every week to put for marketing, why not interview a referral source, have a, VA do the clips that come out of it, use a company like you all to get the podcast edited from an audio standpoint. I mean, and then you've got clips, and then you can put it in ChatGPT from the transcript to get blog posts. And then you can, take that blog post and turn them into 10 tweets with the same program. And then you can have the 30-second clips post. And then you can remind your referral source, it's been 6 months since you're on the show. It's been a year since you've been on the show. What can I do for you? Who else would be a good guest? It's crazy how many opportunities that gives you in a profession where what's every lawyer billboard? It's our face. Mm-hmm. It's some lawyer's face, usually 20 years ago with a ton of makeup on the billboard when they looked great. But that's what it is. So why not do the same thing from a digital standpoint by having a podcast, by having a live show, by having a recorded show, and show your face and show your knowledge while talking to somebody else?
Great point. A great starting point for a conversation about how much technology has changed. I appreciate you saying that about podcasting. I feel the same way, but I always look at it and think maybe I am too much of that podcasting hammer. Maybe everything, the solution to me is a podcast, but it sounds like you kind of feel the same way. But I'm really curious also, in addition to podcasting, technology has changed everything. You mentioned one of the things in that answer to the podcasting question, which was about something like Chat GPT. Technology has really changed the whole face of marketing for law firms. Maybe can you give me like a 35,000 foot approach to how things have changed over the last, 10 or 15 years with marketing?
Oh man, I've been a lawyer for 10 years, so I can give you that.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. Totally.
I mean, look, here's the thing about everything we talk about from social media is really the same as it always was. It's just a different way to build relationships and become well known. Everything we talk about from a Chat GPT knowledge base is the same thing as automation in the auto industry in the 70s and 80s. Like nothing's really new. It's how we use it. And so what's Chat GPT going to do? It got that one attorney in trouble for utilizing a brief with fake cases because they didn't know how to do it. So putting aside, like, you need to know this so you don't make the mistake. It's a tool. And if you're, a smaller law firm, you can now create 10 times as much content in the same time. So if you're trying to build cases from an SEO perspective, on the one hand, you can compete with some of those larger firms. On the other hand, smaller firms can compete with you. And so the more you know how to use these programs, the more you utilize these tools effectively, the cheaper it becomes, or the more impact it can have from truly having a personality, or from truly having a great perspective on cases, or from truly having something unique about you or how your firm does stuff. It becomes easier for you to put out enough content for the right people to find you. And so like the struggle is, if you're a boring attorney that wants to be the same as every other boring attorney, I'm sorry. But if you're, unique in any way and you want to hammer your uniqueness, it's the best time in history for you to be able to do that.
Tools and technology are so essential and so critical in building either your marketing platform or building your practice or the processes or systems that you have in place. But as you said earlier, right at the beginning of this podcast, the most important thing is the relationship that you're going to build. So can you help me emphasize the importance of really strengthening that relationship between either you and your client, or you and a prospective client, or just you and your community that's out there?
Sure. I don't remember what Malcolm Gladwell book I first read this in. I think it might be Talking to Strangers, but regardless, they did this study where they took a bunch of confessions that turned out to be coerced, coerced confessions from police. And they showed people the audio, and people were about 50-50 in terms of whether it was coerced or honest. They showed people the video, and for a lot of them, they had two different viewpoints. One was over the cop's shoulder at the suspect, and one was over the suspect's shoulder at the cop. And whoever was on camera is the person that they believed, because they could see their face. It made it easier to make those decisions about if someone was telling the truth or not. And so why not tap into that same component here? If you're meeting with clients in person, awesome, you can do it. But with COVID, if you haven't gone back to in-person meetings, do Zoom calls, do Zoom consultations instead of phone consults. Let them see your face. When it comes to content, have that video footage about you talking about, what's going on and being the expert. Utilize modern day technology to let people truly see you and hear you and feel like they get to know you. The more that you're genuine about it, the easier it is. And whether that's for clients, future clients, former clients, referral sources, whatever, like if you're trying to build a relationship with one person and using whatever digital space to do it at scale, you're on the right track, and it's just a numbers game. Either the amount of content you put out, the amount of time somebody sees it, or the amount of people that you get to know through it. Like that's all it is.
What do you think the next 10 years has? I mean, it's even hard to tell what the next 12 months has. Things like Chat GPT and AI have completely overwhelmed and taken over the environment, whether it comes to content creation, marketing, sales, a whole bunch of different outreach tools that are out there. But what do you see as, I don't know, the next few years down the road, or even more than that, when it comes to marketing and getting your brand aware, some brand awareness out there on the street?
So twofold. I mean, from a marketing perspective, I think in person is going to be more sought after. because you don't, there'll be deep fake video AI, and you won't even know if you're on a Zoom call with somebody who's real or if it's not them, or whatever
Oh,
it is along
no.
those lines.
Yeah.
So you'll have that component for people that genuinely want a physical view, and then they'll build AI robots, and we won't even be able to tell if people are real anymore. And but that won't be 12 months down the road, I don't think. From a work perspective, I mean, look, here's the thing: what are you truly the best at? What are you truly a transformation or an experience for somebody else for, versus where you're just a commodity or a good or a service? Because those are like the commodity, the good, the service, those are the things that technology is going to kill. The point where it's, you truly doing the right consulting for them to make sure it's on the right path, whether it's you as the business attorney, truly giving them great business advice as well as doing the legal stuff correctly, whether it's you as a marketer, truly giving your clients a better strategy, not just execution that AI is going to do better and super quick. Like, where can you actually be the best at? That's where you're going to be able to, I don't even want to say survive, because that's not the right word, but thrive through this, because you can utilize all the tools to help you execute on your strategy better, but you need to have something that you can truly give somebody a great guidance on that matters to them.
As an aside, the information that you're sharing really applies to pretty much any industry that's out there. Build great relationships, stay in tune with technology, take advantage of the opportunities. You can compete with the big guys, even a small guy using technology on your side. You chose, because of where you're schooled, you chose to stay in the legal profession. Do you think that you'll continue to stay in that environment, or do you see yourself branching out to doing other industries as well?
From a marketing perspective, or from anything?
Well, it's interesting. Well, when you say from a marketing perspective, let me throw it back to you. From a marketing perspective, you could market to any industry and receive inbound requests to do your gig. I guess the question is, would you receive it? Would somebody from my audience calls you and they have a dry cleaning business, but they really love what you have to share? Is that an avenue that you would explore, or do you like to stay in your lane and stay in the legal world?
Right now, I would say no. Would we grow into other industries? I don't know. Like, where I see myself growing more, and this isn't a LegalEase thing, this would be a Jordan Ostroff specific.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather work with other business owners that want to have a life first, like have a life while running a great business, than work with more lawyers who don't feel that way.
Yeah.
So like, that's the side that's more important to me. So whether that would be, putting together some communities of, lifestyle business owners or whatever, I'd see myself going there more, but differently, not necessarily from a marketing perspective, but more from like a community creation perspective. Because ultimately, I think that so many of us, like, everybody dies. Some people just aren't buried for 60 years. That's a quote that sits with me all the time. Like, how many people are working a job 50, 60 hours a week and are miserable?
Oh, I hate it.
I'd rather try and help people get out of that, regardless of their industry, than try and help more lawyers who don't care about billing 2,500 hours a year,
Well, you're setting the right tone. I think now that I'm having this conversation with you as a recorded podcast episode, I think I recall having the conversation with you right before you were about to embark upon a 10 or a 12-week trip to Maine and back again to Florida. If I remember correctly, is that? But you're setting the right tone. You're setting the example for what you or who you want to work with. If I was talking to somebody that really enjoys working 80 to 100 hours a week, and that's what they want to teach people, how to work 80 or 100 hours a week, it would be a whole different conversation. But it sounds like you are working within the environment and potentially future environment that you would be gravitating towards as a customer as well for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you look like Doug, it's funny, if you came to me in law school, I would not be a nice guy who would deserve to be on this podcast. But I have changed. I've learned from that. And so like, doing a personal branding session is the weirdest thing, because like, it's truly like, what is Jordan Ostroff digitally worth? What is this brand worth? I don't think that's fair to do to somebody as a human. Like, our lives don't have different worth, so I don't think they should, even as a PI lawyer where we've argued for some of those things.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to do it from like a brand perspective. And for me, like I am a lifestyle brand, which is funny because like if you look at me on Instagram, I'm not eating at super fancy restaurants and staying in all these gorgeous mansions as we travel. That's not my thing. That's not what I want to do. That's not honest. But like it is a lifestyle that I live, that we get to travel like this. And so it attracts clients that want more time with their kids. It attracts clients that want to not be tied to a desk so long. It attracts clients who, want to follow those things. And so it's crazy because like, forget the tax implications of me getting to write off some of the stuff for content, but genuinely me living a more fun life is supportive of my brand.
I totally get it. And amen to that, Jordan. You're following your North Star, and those in our community that don't follow their North Star are following somebody else's North Star, which does not lead to a lot of happiness down the road. So you're right. Some people die. What was the expression? What was it?
Everybody dies. Some people just aren't buried for 60 years.
Yeah,
it's such a cool, I wish I could take credit for it, but it's such a cool quote that I remind myself of a lot.
Great quote. Well, Jordan, I really appreciate you sharing your expertise. For those that are in our community that are in the legal space that want to reach out to you to get more information about how you do and what you do and how you can help them, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Probably the best thing's on LinkedIn. There's 2 Jordan Ostroffs. I'm actually probably the less successful one because he gets a ton of job offers to my email. So he's doing something right.
Oh, maybe he's always unemployed.
No. It's like, hey, man, you just grew this sales team in Boston to whatever. We want to poach you. Yeah. Anyway, so I post a couple times a day. You'll get a feel for the vibe. If it makes sense, reach out to me from there. Or my email is Jordan@LegalEase Marketing, EASE. Because the whole company name is a great dad joke, but it's turned out to be true.
Well, that is very cool. Well, Jordan, thanks for sharing your message, your inspiration, and I'm looking forward to getting some positive feedback from our community. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Special thanks to Jordan Ostroff. All of his information, including access to all of the stuff that we talked about today, his website, his programs, his podcast, all of that will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. That's their story, and they're sticking to it.